The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Dave Savage here, CEO Mortgage Coach. Great to have you at another Insane Productivity Mastermind. As you guys know, every single Friday now, we are here to connect so that you can get more from you. You know, how can you be more productive? And we've only got 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. How can you get more out of that? We've talked about things ranging from your CRM. One thing, I realized we hadn't done yet, which I think the most productive and successful loan officers do, is talk about how much time from the time that you meet with a prospect, have a first conversation, till the time that you fund that loan in a way that you're going to get your commission check, how many man or woman hours are you spending? And I am going to dedicate a call to that, where we talk about the milestones of a loan, the actions of every loan, and just really break down a perfect loan process and the man hours. But I only showcase that because I think that's what this call is all about. It's how to get more out of the day, how to get more out of us. So if you do have a question or comment, you can post that on our Facebook page. If you're on this and you're not already a member of our Facebook page, request it, just put it in search, Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind Group. That's what this is called. Put it in there. I want to remind everybody that this call was inspired by Darren Hardy and the Insane Productivity Program. So all of the leaders, mentors, probably the majority of the people that come to this call have been through that program. It's a 12-week program, and they've been through that program. If you haven't been through it, can't recommend it enough. It's Darren's program with mortgage coach leaders. So it is truly for lenders. And we also provide a $500 discount. So you're not going to get a better educational experience to improve your productivity than Darren Hardy. And you can see on our Facebook page, it's the first post. I have it pinned up there. So it's always at the top. So today, this call is going to be co-led with myself and Jen Plessis. Jen, do you mind turning on your video and joining me on stage here?
Sure.
So usually Todd Bookspan and I are the co-hosts. Today it's Jen. We're gonna, I'd say the focus on today's call is Jen's new book launch. So I'm not going to say if you haven't bought it, you're missing it because it hasn't been released. But it's being released on Amazon on Tuesday. And so we're having an opportunity to be the first to know about it. We got the author, Jen Plessis, here to not just she's not here to sell her book. She's here to give you some things that, why she created the book, what are some of the highlights in the book, as the author and a coach and leader, how would she recommend that you get the most value from it? And I would tell you, I get requests and I get books every single week, and I don't promote every one of them. This is a really good book. I have not read it fully yet, but I have gone through it. I've skimmed it. By the way, Jen, I haven't told you this yet, but I love the way you organized it, formatted it. I could tell this is a great reference playbook just to keep around. And even, after you read it, to just pick it up and go through it. So great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So Jen, you heard some of last week's call.
Yeah.
Anything that you think we should follow up with the community before we get into some topics on your book?
Yeah, I was really curious to see if anyone had an opportunity to go back through their notes. I mean, gosh, he had so many great notes and so many great graphs that he showed to us, Robert did. And I wanted to just see if anyone had a breakthrough, if they had any time to think through, any breakthroughs that they had. And really what we focused on at the very end was that the breakthrough needed to be, the only way that we could really effectively find a breakthrough was to have some jam sessions. So I'm curious to see if anybody had a chance to put some more jam sessions in their week, so that they could really make some, real critical changes in their business. And so that's, I guess, the first thing. I just wanted to see if everyone did that. And I'm excited because I'm actually going to be getting my 10-minute coaching with Robert this afternoon. So can't wait.
Good.
Can't wait.
Good. So let's open that up. just as a reminder, last week we had Robert Stover, good friend and a mentor and coach to me, talking about personal breakthroughs. And again, a breakthrough is defined by something that you didn't have to increase the amount of time and energy or the amount of spend, but it had a massive increase in your success. So if you had a breakthrough, you could do a couple things. One, you could raise your hand and I could unmute you so you could share. And by the way, it's, we're not expecting you had a breakthrough, but if you got clear on some breakthroughs that you've had in the past, like I know after this session, Todd Bookspan said, God, I've had like 2 major breakthroughs in my career, and he called them out. But you know what? He goes, I wasn't intentional. It was just, I formulated a strategy, but I really wasn't as intentional as I could have been. And he's like, now after hearing that, I can approach and find new breakthroughs much better. So even if you just identified a breakthrough you've had recently that you want to raise your hand and talk about, please do that. By the way, I think it's important to note, and we don't have Todd on this call, but Todd ended up winning the Darren Hardy #1 star.
I love it.
Yeah, that
I
was
watched
pretty cool.
it was awesome. I love especially the way that he's using his hands like Darren does, those types of movements that he does, and I thought it was great that Todd did that. So.
Yeah, no, and I especially loved his humor at the end, the bloopers.
Yeah.
If anybody didn't watch the whole video, go back and watch it. There's a link down below in our YouTube channel, but everybody give Todd a hand, #1. And thank you to the community. We did a big push in the community to go vote for Todd. So anybody that gave Todd a vote, thank you for supporting him. Here's a link to that. So let's see, any hands raised? So let's see if I'm gonna call on someone. And Jen, I want you to think about either a breakthrough that you've had, but let's see here. No, I don't have any hands raised. So I'm not gonna. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna pick on Bliss Sawyer. Okay. Hey, Bliss, are you unmuted? Or you are unmuted? Can you talk?
I can, Dave. Hey, how are you guys?
Good. How are you, Bliss?
We're good.
Doing good.
Hey, were you on last week's call? By the way, did you hear the breakthrough session with Stover last week?
I didn't. I kind of love the topic, so I need to go back and listen to it. And I mean, because I did the Darren Hardy Insane Productivity, so I kind of know the gist of that. So yeah, what can I answer?
No, don't. We're not going to put you on the spot if you didn't go through it. But I guess I will put you on the spot. Do you have any questions or topics for today? Anything that you want to make sure we talk about?
So I love hearing what other people are doing to be able to make those jam sessions work and kind of get rid of the noise of working inside the files, because that's probably the stage I'm at right now, is removing myself from the files so I can do really all of those tasks that bring in business, and utilizing jam sessions and focus time and not getting caught up in the details once a file goes to the next step. Do you know what I mean?
Totally know what you mean. And I have a feeling that Jen has something in her book.
I need to read this book. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I just have a sneaking feeling that Jen can answer that and talk a lot about that while serving both Darren and her book. I just have a feeling. So Bliss, anything else, Bliss?
No, I'd just love to hear her thoughts on that.
Right on. I'll put you back on mute. A few more things I would like to shine a light on and push the community towards before we hand it off to Jen and put her on stage. I saw this video this morning by Chris Williams, an active member of our Productivity Mastermind. So what's up, Chris? And he did, I don't know how many minutes it was. I think it was like 2-minute video on what is the total cost analysis. Yeah. Guys, brilliant. What a great idea. Because let's face it, not every loan officer does a total cost analysis. And a loan officer that does a total cost analysis is infinitely more valuable to a family than one that doesn't. So, two things, well, maybe three things. One, that needs to be on everybody's list. Tim Lamb, if you're on here, we need to get that added to the must-do videos for every mortgage coach. You should have a what is the TCA? Or, by the way, if you don't call it a total cost analysis and you have some branded personal term, whatever it is, the bottom line is everybody who's a mortgage coach delivers infinitely better advice than average transactional loan officers. So have a 1 minute, 2 minute video, not a 10-minute video, not even a 5-minute video, but something less than 3 minutes that nets that out for the family and nets that out for the realtor. So Chris, great job. If you're on this call and you like that idea, please watch Chris's video. Please like it. Let Chris know you thought that was slick. And then please, I've already had a couple people reach out to me offline saying, that was awesome. I'm going to do it. Do it and share it in the community. Let's help each other get better. That's what makes a mastermind super awesome. Also, one last thing, next Friday, we're going to have Josh Metal is our guest. And Josh actually reached out to me via text, not yesterday, but the day before, and said, Dave, I have been getting asked to speak at other lenders' sales rallies. And I did a presentation called the five something of the millionaire loan officer. The 5 strategies, the 5 traits. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. Well, actually, I can just pull it up right here because him and I did a video. I'm not going to start promoting it until next week, but Josh and I did a video yesterday on it. Here it is. Yeah, the 5 traits of the millionaire mortgage professional. It's awesome. Josh is amazing. Watch this little 13-minute video, and then next Friday we're going to have Josh. So, FYI. So I say it's time to hand it off to you. I'm actually going to jump off stage unless I have something to say, Jen. And I'm going to let you tell us about your book and rock it out for us.
That was a couple of years ago. Yeah.
What's that?
That picture was a couple of years ago when I was just finishing up a math class that I teach. And she said, can you just walk through it with me again closer? And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Well, by the way, the reason I love that picture so much is because I think sometimes we get caught up that the modern mortgage experience is only a mobile device.
Right.
And the modern mortgage experience is whatever the family or the realtor wants. And some people live on paper. So I just love this picture because you got it all. You got your HP12C, you got your paper, you got your mortgage coach TCA. You are the modern mortgage professional ready to give that, I think it was a realtor, whatever they needed in the context that they wanted it. So we use this picture all the time because, we've got so many pictures around just tech and mortgage coach, but we don't have a lot of pictures that, to me, this is real world. And it really makes you stand out. So, hey, I'm going to jump off video. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book, and let's make sure we answer Bliss's questions, and I'll ask questions as they come up.
Well, definitely. And so Bliss, we'll make sure that we answer your question. Hopefully others will want to have some questions answered as well. And, so we're not just focusing in on just your question, because there's a lot to be said and there are a lot of questions in lending, right? So, I thought I'd just start with really what happened behind this book and why I wrote it. It was, so many people have just asked me questions time and time again. And I think, as most of you know that are listening in, I also do a podcast, and I've been doing a podcast called Mortgage Lending Mastery for the last 2 years. And that really was prompted from a series of questions that I would get on a regular basis from loan officers saying, how do I do this? How do I do that? Can you help me with this arena? What would you say to a realtor if they called you, or if you were referred to a realtor, what would be the first things you say? So all these questions started coming up, and the only way that I could answer them, I felt, was, how do I give it to the world? And so I started the Mortgage Lending Mastery, the podcast. And that's just now grown into something bigger, where everyone said, you need to write a book. And so I kind of got pressured into it. for a lot of different reasons, but I felt like it was probably the only way to get something in writing and put it out there to the world. It's funny, as you go through writing a book, which I probably never do again, but as you go through writing a book and as you're getting it ready for publishing, you realize, my gosh, there's so many other things I wanted to say, and life changes as you go along. I mean, I'm a constant learner, so I'm always looking for ways to improve myself. And since the book went to publishing, I probably have another 10 or 15 things that I'd love to say. And unfortunately, that will never, be in print, but I'll always be available, to answer anybody's questions. So the premise of the book, and by the way, it's called Launch, How to Take Your Business to New Heights. It started off as Launch, Shut Up, Take Action. And they said that it was just a little too mean. So I said, okay, fine. So we worked through some other things and called it Stop Talking, Take Action. And I still call it that because, my 34 years of lending, I spend a lot of time with other referral partners. And the one thing that just drives me crazy is when people talk about being successful, talk about taking action on, different things like holding a class, or, I'm going to call that realtor, I'm going to call that builder, I'm going to get better at being a loan officer. But I don't really see anybody taking action on it. And that's why I'm so drawn to Darren Hardy and Insane Productivity, because he was just so much in line with my thoughts on things, is how do I take action? And oh my gosh, I've learned so much from him that I wasn't doing, right? So anyway, so Launch is the name of the book. It actually is an acronym, which you will not find in the book. It's an acronym for a lot of the speaking that I do. I too go to many companies, and I'm a consultant for them. And we talk about what launch means. And it's an acronym for leveraging yourself and people around you, taking action, utility, needs, credibility, and habits. And that's really encapsulating everything that I talk about. So that's where the book came from. I'm really excited about it. Something that Dave didn't show, so I want to just show it real quickly, is, has my picture on it, right? But I wanted to lay it out, and he mentioned, how I laid it out and everything, but I wanted to lay it out in a way that it was sort of a soup for the soul, where you could just kind of flip through the book, and there was a catchy name for each chapter, so that you would just take a look at it and see if you could implement something that one day. What I love about it is that when I got it, and if you've seen the video of when I did the reveal at my house, I started crying, is that my publisher surprised me with something, this. And so once you take once you take the sleeve off of it, and you don't have to look at my face anymore, it really is a workbook. And there are very few books that have this on it. And oh my gosh, I was just so excited about that silly little thing, and it made me cry. But the book is really broken down into 3 categories. And so Bliss is going
to time out, Jen.
Yeah.
I think that.
Did you know it was there? You didn't know?
No, but by the way, I mean, that is like, I just want to call this out, because this may seem subtle to so many people, but it is such a great example of how you play chess at a level that I don't think a lot of people can understand. Obviously very cool, but I mean, that's next level. Right. That's next level thinking right there. And it really is, because, not that you're gorgeous, want it on my desk, but, my workbook, the Launch workbook.
Absolutely. Back at you.
I'm blown away. I really do like it. I know it's so small, it's not a big deal, but.
Had you noticed it?
Of course not. Yeah, no, I haven't taken off your cover yet. But yeah, you're not playing chess. Like, whatever it is, it's like 8 thoughts beyond that. That's where Jen plays. Anyways, nice job.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of cool. But anyway, so Bliss, to answer your question, because this is really addressed in the books, I broke it out into the, it has some sections and stuff. And by the way, the introduction is going to be a little painful to go through, because you're going to learn a lot about me and where I came from, and it is a little painful, but I needed to set that stage so that you understood that I'm just like everybody else, and if little old Jenny, who ain't got a penny, can do what I'm doing, anybody can do it. And so the main three sections are called something I coined, which is called Finder, Minder, and Grinder. And Bliss, I think for you and anybody else who's listening, when you're challenged with how do I do my jam sessions, how do I get to the point where I'm doing what I love to do best, which by the way I call the trifecta of triumph. It's also known as the hedgehog theory, which is doing deciding to be true to yourself and doing only the activities that that you absolutely love. That's number one. That's the trifecta. Doing only activities that you absolutely love, only doing activities that you're excellent at, and then only doing activities that are economically, that make economic sense. Okay, so it really is a matter of ceasing and desisting on things that don't work for you, instead of trying to make them work for you because everybody else said you needed to do it. Okay, so so the finder, the minder, and the grinder are really important sections because we as loan officers are finders, and I lay out all of the finder activities. And then in the minder section, I lay out all the minder activities. And then lastly, of course, the grinder activities. And if you're starting out where you don't have an assistant and you're just an individual working, well, heck, I was all of those as well. I was a finder, minder, and grinder. And so it's the challenge is, you know, taking off the hats and putting the different hats on every single day in accomplishing each one of these sections. And the jam sessions, the power hours, whatever you want to call them, but the jam sessions that Darren calls them are, oops, my light just went off because I'm in my office. Apparently my fingers aren't enough. The jam sessions allow you to work within those compartments as a minder, and then another compartment as a finder and a grinder. So all of those sections. So that's the first thing in finding the opportunity to use these jam sessions is don't use these jam sessions in a means to just get caught up on work, but use them to only do minding activities or finding activities or grinding activities. Don't interchange them. And I found that was extremely beneficial for me. And I've done that for, you know, eons. And so I think that's one of the first things to be able to remove yourself from the file. The other part about removing yourself from the file is, again, being true to yourself. It does no good. How do I want to say it? You know, I think even Robert said something last week. I believe my notes were from last week that, you know, you can fish and you can get a fish by having a little fishing pole, but you can't haul in a full net of fish it takes other people to do that. And everyone has a specific role. And I just found that my expertise is in finding, and that means for me, I do 3 critical things, which is a Darren Hardy thing as well. I do 3 critical things, and that is I strategize with my clients using Mortgage Coach and TCAs. I do networking, and I meet with my partners. The other part of that meeting with my partners is I teach a whole bunch of classes. I'm big on teaching classes, and a lot of that's in the book as well, and it has how to be an educator and an expert in your community by teaching classes. And if you're afraid to be in front of a big group, that's okay. You can teach a class with just 2 or 3. So,
hey, real quick, before we go off that, I want to try to unmute Bliss and have a little bit of a conversation around that. Because, I mean, I think you spoke to it, but I mean, it really is a challenge to be consistent with scheduling that jam session, that on time. Bliss, I've unmuted you. You've heard Jen talk to it a little bit. But why don't you guys have a bit of a conversation around that topic?
Super. Yeah, I love what you're saying, Jen. So yeah, tell me kind of just some more about how you advise people to really do that day in and day out.
Yeah, so let me give you an example, and I may have already mentioned this, you know, one of our coaching sessions. I mean, one of our sessions that we've all had here over the last year and a half or so. But so let's just take this example. So why is it when we come back from the grocery store, that we take everything out of a bag and walk it into the house? Why don't you just take out one item?
Right, because let's just get it done.
Right, the efficiency of it, right? So when you, and also when you get into the house, you take everything out of the bag and you compartmentalize them, right? Those things that'll go in the fridge, those things that will go in a cabinet, etc. You kind of compartmentalize them, so you don't just take out one item, walk over to the fridge, open it up, put it in, and come back and get another item, correct?
Right.
So it's all about compartmentalizing. And the other example of that is why is it that we take laundry out of the dryer and put it into a basket, and then we fold everything in neat piles instead of running, folding a shirt and running it all the way to a bedroom and then coming back. It's just not efficient. So I would say that when you come into the office every day and you turn on your computer, your email is like a pile of clothes, or your email is like a bag of groceries. And what we end up doing is we end up going right down that list of email and allowing that to run our day. So the first email might be, what do you mean my appraisal came in low? Hey, can you come to this networking event? Hey, I was referred to you. A processor saying you forgot to sign something. And so what we do is we allow our email to become our big pile of clothes, and we attack everything one at a time. And that's why it takes us so much time, and then we get trapped in it, right? So setting up rules in your calendar or in your email, so that when emails come in that are related to sales, they go in one pile, and administrative thing, again, if they're related to Finder, Minder, and Grinder, they're all going into those different areas, and they're addressed when you are in a time block where you can address them as a Minder or as a Grinder, okay? And
Sure.
So compartmentalizing your activities is key and number one. And here's another example. When you get a phone call from someone, and we all want to do great service, right? I mean, we're in a service industry, that's what we want to do. But when we're answering the phone just because someone's calling us, and it's outside of our jam session, if we're driving and you want to answer it, okay, wink, wink, go ahead and answer it. But I don't know that I would do that if it's the right person, but we're all about making a sales call, and really it's a service call. And so when you answer the phone when it's not an opportune time, or when you're in the middle of a jam session, it becomes a sales call, not a service call, because you're not focusing your attention to serving them. So a better way to answer the phone, if you have to answer it and you feel like you have to, is to say, thank you so much. I wanted to quickly answer the call. I wanted you to know that you're calling. However, I'm in the middle of a session right now. I'm about ready to walk into a meeting. Would it be okay if I called you between the hours of 4 and 6 tonight? When I'm in front of my computer, and I can devote 100% of my time and attention to serving you. And I promise everybody will say, yeah, no problem, call me back. Now notice that I deferred it until 4 to 6, which is a time block for me to call everybody back. And I didn't say 4, because at 4 comes around and the world's a nightmare and everything. So, you don't want to, and then you start, putting undue stress on yourself because you told them 4 p.m. So it's better to give them that timeline, and it gives you the opportunity to breathe. But what you're doing is you're taking even a phone call and compartmentalizing it. And so maybe you'll have 2 of those periods a day that you can work on your business. Well, so there's different times. There's strategy times, there's relaxing times, and then there's doing your activity, your loan, taking care of business type of time. And so you need to have those time blocks even to do that. You want to get back to them, you want to take care of them, you want to service them. But if you're going to do it on the fly, it's going to be a sales call and not a service call, because you're distracted. Okay, so those are some examples of how to do that. Is look at every activity that you're doing, and usually what I do is when I'm coaching somebody, I have a sheet of paper that has a column for Finder, a column for Minder, and a column for Grinder. And I ask everyone to put their different activities into each of those categories so that you can see how are you spending your day. Mostly minding and being trapped in loans, mostly finding, mostly grinding. Where are you spending your time? And, you know, once you're able to do that and you see that the biggest chunk of your day is spent in minding, now you can compartmentalize that on a calendar and say that when I'm minding, I'm only going to mind for half an hour increments. And people get really nervous because I love Todd's Win by Noon because I've been doing that for years. You know, the first thing I do in the morning is lead generating activities, and nothing else is important until that's done. And it allows me then to have the jam sessions throughout the day. And the jam sessions might be projects, might be a presentation I'm putting together. It might be writing a review for one of my staff members. But it's always going to be minding and grinding activities, because the grinder activity is the vision. That's the activity where you have to sit and visualize and have a business plan, and you need to do that time. So am I answering your question, Bliss, at all?
So Bliss just texted, she's having some sound issues.
Oh, okay.
Bliss, you can put things in questions and I can ask it. So one thing I want to make sure, and I know everybody's connected the dots on this, but the way Jen's answering this, and it's kind of a new way to look at it. You know, to get a jam session, you can't just focus on jam session. You need to have all these other things organized, because if you're unable to, when you get a task and when you get an email, to mentally put that in a bucket, you're unable to go, what should I put in a jam session? Because you're just going. And so the brilliance of what Jen does is, you know, again, she calls it minder, grinder. That may work for you. You may need your own thing. I know for me personally, I categorize things around entertainment, growth, you know, busy work,
That's
personal
awesome.
things, you know, but I am so, I don't know if you want to call it neurotic about it, but like the way my mobile phone is organized, you'll see I've got a bucket for entertainment. And by the way, Facebook is in entertainment. You know, I've got for growth, you know, I've got a bucket for growth. I've got Miracle Morning. So, and again, I'm not saying this to brag. By the way, Jen does too. But by the way, if you watch the interview I did with Josh Meadows yesterday, he's got a bucket called Wisdom.
Yeah.
And in Wisdom, he's got, by the way, he has the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel there. I love that. But he'll show it to you. So anybody who's listening to this, organizing things, you got to do that in order to have jam sessions. And then a couple things I'll add on, and Bliss, I don't know if you get back in here and you can ask a question or keep this conversation going, or someone else, but I need to schedule it. You know, like I literally, if I do not put it on my calendar, it will not happen. And if I don't kind of do it proactively, you know, like I've got to get I don't try to get 10 jam sessions a week. You know, if I can do 5 jam sessions, I'm super proud of myself. I have weeks where I do 8, but I do 8 to 5, 5 to 8. And I have to schedule those. I have a little color code. Those are green, you know, jam session green. And now it's like my favorite thing to put on my calendar. It's like almost like, you know, turn off email, focus, jam session. So a couple things. So if anybody else is on this call and you have a question for Jen, could be anything. If you have a question about anything, bring it in. And then also I would love right now just some rapid fire from the audience. So in GoToWebinar, I want you to list the most common jam sessions that you have. If there's a topic, and again, we've talked about this a lot, and I'm going to throw out some mortgage coach things, annual reviews, could be a jam session. But we've talked about all the ideas for jam sessions before. But if you've done a jam session in the past 2 weeks and you want to tell us what it was, if you could list those out right now. I would really appreciate it. By the way, Rich just said, I'm dead in the water if I don't schedule it. So, thanks for adding to that. Bliss, I'm going to give you one more chance to try to talk here. Wait, I've unmuted you. By the way, Bliss, I've unmuted you again. See if that worked. Can you talk real quick?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hear you.
Oh, it did
Yeah.
work. So my phone just cut out. So great. Actually, I just typed this in. So jam sessions. I struggle with jam sessions except for one thing. And that one thing is phone calls. It is for some reason really easy for me to shut everything off and spend an hour calling on realtors, past prospects, people in process just to give them a warm fuzzy. For some reason, that really works for me because I don't know what it is about it. It's the other things I want to do jam sessions for that I tend to procrastinate. But doing the phone calls, so people that maybe struggle with this or just want to start with one thing to have a jam session on, I'd say, and maybe start with 30 minutes. Dave, you and I have talked about people like us, right, that struggle with an hour. And I started out with actually doing the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes, and then a break, and then 25 minutes. But start out with whatever time frame you think you can and do it with phone calls. And a lot of times what I'll do when I'm kind of readying my day is I'll just brainstorm, who do I want to call? Who do I want to touch base with? Look at past prospects, look at my realtor database, and then I literally just dial. If any of you remember the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith and the scene where he is making the phone calls and he says, I don't drink water because I know then I won't have to go to the bathroom, and I don't hang the phone up all the way. I just push the button and dial the next number. And I love that scene in that movie, right? Because when I say make phone calls for an hour, you can make 4 phone calls in an hour, or you could make 50 phone calls in an hour, right? It depends on how motivated are you. What does your list look like? Are you organized? Do you have those phone numbers handy? And so, yeah, that's probably what I would suggest to people, just because it's the easiest one for me to do a jam session. Ooh, we should start calling it a jam session.
Yeah, right. You should. So, by the way, so Jen, I'm going to comment. I'm going to give you one chance to comment, and then I want to go to another topic because we've got 22 minutes. And Jen, while I'm talking, I want you to, obviously think about what you're going to say to close up the jam session conversation. But what would be like a big idea in your book that is appropriate for this audience and to talk about today? So be thinking about that. So Bliss, I want to say something to you. So I think you and I are a lot alike. And when I have to do that kind of, I have a jam session to make calls, it's easiest for me. You know why? Because I like to talk to people. I mean, that is where I get my energy, is building relationships, solving problems, talking to people. And the jam sessions that are the hardest are like where it's quiet. I'm by myself. I have to get inside my head and I have to think deeply, and I have to not be texting and emailing at the same time, which is, by the way, a really comfortable place for me to be. I am loving it when I'm text, email, talk, great. But when I have to just play chess and work on a presentation, or, think deeply into a process improvement within my organization, or, build out some sales tools for my team, it's harder to do that. And by the way, that's the frog that I schedule by noon, is whenever I have to do that type of busy work. So before I have you comment on that, Bliss, and then throw it to you, I do want to honor everybody who shared their jam sessions. Andrew said process improvement, presentation, that's something else, prep for meetings, jam sessions, formalized marketing strategy, annual reviews. So by the way, thanks for all that, everybody. If you have more jam sessions that you want to fill up, throw it in here. But Bliss, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's maybe why those are easy to do, but the ones that you should do, they're just harder,
absolutely.
harder to do?
So I've been really working on my social media over the last year. And so that's a great thing for a jam session, right? Plan out the next couple of weeks, look for some ideas, work with my assistant on that. But that's harder, right? Because that requires me to have some quiet time. And you're right, I didn't thought of it that way, but I do think those are going to be the best things to do first thing in the morning, or sometimes I will actually do an hour in the evening when I'm at home, just because the day's done. It depends on, my motivation level, of course, and my energy level, but I have to separate myself from where I see the urgent things, which would be my loans in process, the phone calls coming in, the text, right? Because I'm so important, I need to reply right away because that's what makes me good at what I do. And we talk ourselves into that, and we don't realize how powerful it'll be to step away and to work on those things that have a huge importance in our business that we keep procrastinating. So yes, social media, working on marketing ideas, working on even just developing a realtor list to then call and market to. That's what a lot of loan officers struggle with is, how do I do that list? Who do I put on there? Well, spend some quiet time thinking about it and looking at your past files and your past listing and buyer's agents and all of that stuff, but do it in a quiet time. That's the best thing about Darren Hardy that he teaches, is that, you don't focus solely on one thing. It's going to take you 5-10 times as long because you're like, a pinball machine, and you're going all over the place and you're not doing any of it well.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And by the way, I want to call out the one you just did, because I interviewed Danny Harani on Realtor Meetings this Tuesday, and it's so important to have a target, really well thought out, really well vetted, partners, realtors, financial planners, who are the dream 50 or the dream 100, and who are the core 20. And by the way, that's something that most loan officers just never do. And by the way, they never do it. They go a career without doing it.
Right. And I've been pretty good about that. But what people have to realize is it's very fluid. And so I realized I hadn't really tweaked that list for probably 9 months. So just yesterday, I used a jam session to go in, and I have A, B, C, D, and E. I have kind of a weird system that works for me, right? That I've developed over the years, but I really tweaked it. So now I'm kind of fired up to really, after this holiday weekend, get my schedule full of lunches and start making more phone calls. And I've got different people in this A group now as I look back on my production and the referrals I've been getting in, which means my other marketing is working, the social media, the networking events at the Realtor Association, right? I'm getting referrals from different realtors. And some realtors that I've been wining and dining for 4 years haven't sent me anything in a year, not even a referral. So why am I going to spend any more time on them, So yeah, take time. If you have something already done up, take time to go in and reevaluate it and use a jam session for that.
Right.
Boom. Go ahead, Jen.
Yeah,
it's all you, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I have so much to say, so I'm just going to sort of rapid fire this to everybody. So I'm going to get back to that term that I had used several months ago about the difference between being on demand and being in demand. As salespeople, we feel like we have to be on demand, but it kills us. It's going to kill us. And if you haven't been in 34 years like I have, I promise you it will kill you unless you get control of it sooner rather than later. So, and that was just based on what you had said before, is that, you're in the middle of a jam session, you're thinking, oh, I'm so important, I have to be involved in all these files. You really don't. If you can create the experience, and by the way, the whole movement that's happening with customers these days is not customer service, but customer experience. So if you can create the experience by your perfect loan process, or your fire prevention process is what I call it. If you can create that experience, it doesn't matter who the players are, as long as they're all rock stars like you, okay? As long as they still have that high level of customer experience and service mentality. So you need to create the experience through your process so that they can get the same type of, I can use the same word over and over, experience, but so they can get the same experience over and over again. That's the thing to remember. And then as a result, you'll be on demand or in demand versus on demand. And that's That's really critical. I mean, I think it's important. Even, fake it till you make it. Even if you don't have any appointments, tell them that you're booked for 2 weeks. Now, you don't want to lose a deal. I get that. And I know that that's where the fear comes in. So that's the first thing about that. The other is on jam sessions. The jam sessions that I set up, I call them jam sessions dash minding activities, or jam session dash presentation, jam session dash database management. So that when I have something I want to do, rather than doing it right now and distracting myself, I just do a search in my Outlook and put it in that jam session. So when that jam session comes up, I have a list of things that I want to do in that jam session, okay? And every time I add something to that jam session, I'm noticing whether or not I can accomplish it during the time period I've set out for the jam session, or whether or not I need to move it to a different jam session that's very similar. So that should help you do that. I also want to say that, Les Brown is one of my favorite guys. He has one of his sayings is, if you'll do what is easy, life will be hard. If you do what's hard, life will be easy. It's time to start doing things that are harder so that it can be easier later on down the road, rather than doing the easy things now, which is just dismissing everything and not getting it done, and then wishing and hoping that life would be easier when it's not, and as a result, you end up answering phone calls while you're on vacation and do all those things. So do it now rather than later. This is that whole, stop talking and take action. Really important that you take the actions today. So that was one thing I wanted to say. The other thing is, nobody can do your push-ups. You have to do them yourself. So if it means having jam sessions that are half an hour long to get started, then do it that way. But nobody's going to do these jam sessions for you. You have to do them. They are so critical to your business so that you are sharpening your axe. So you have the downtime to be fresh. You're no good if you're, just a chaotic mess because you can't remember anything that anyone told you because you're living from distraction to distraction. And I would say that if anybody's heard of Rewire and the lizard brain, it sounds to me, Bliss, what you're dealing with right now is the control factor. And so if you can try to, push that down a little bit and not be so much in control, I feel like I'm in more control not doing the parts of a loan than I ever was before. I didn't have control, and it feels like control while you're in it. I've got to control the whole deal, but you're actually doing more harm to the transaction. And if you can remember that, if you can say, actually, my involvement is making it worse. So I've got to stay out and let the professionals do their job. Because I'm a professional in the finding area, so don't try to do my job. I'll go out and bring in everything. But your job, again, as long as you're hiring rock stars, is to ensure that you can go out and do, the best that you can. So I would just say that. Now, the other thing is, have a quarterly jam session that is to review your entire plan. You should be looking at your plan every day, but you should, and measuring every day, and especially using Todd's Win by Noon. But you need to have a quarterly look back at everything, and that will avoid that surprise you get of, wow, I've been, touting all these people and they haven't given me any business. You don't want to waste years and years finding that out. You want to try to nip that in the bud. So hopefully does that help? I know it's a lot of rapid fire, but hopefully that helped you a little bit.
It's awesome.
Yeah? Okay, good.
Thank you. Love it.
Just making sure. Yeah, a lot of little techniques to learn, and and that is truly where my expertise is. I have 8 businesses now, and I still produce, and I'm still a good producer, and I and I'm a grandma, and I'm a competitive dancer, and so I dance every night, and everyone says, how do you get that all in there? And you don't have to be like me, but it's habits and systems that I've created over the years that allow me to do so much more than the average person. But that's what it is. It's just creating that habit, and that habit really starts with the first push-up.
That's wonderful. Love all your ideas. Thank you so much for sharing them.
Of course. So Dave, you had asked me, something in the book that might help along the lines of this. And so, if you were to get the book and read chapter 3, it's called Build Each Day with a Blueprint. And you know, I really think that one of the challenges that I see in our industry with the people that I coach is getting up every day and not really knowing what you're going to be doing, not knowing what your goal is today, not knowing how many connections you need to make, not knowing how many leads you want to get, you know, who you want to touch base with, how many notes you need to write. And I think we get up just hoping that something will come our way. So I would encourage everyone to lean into their business instead of sitting back and relaxing. Lean in, go after it with the vengeance and the level that you feel comfortable you want in your business at this time. Okay, so having a blueprint is really, really critical. And Darren talks about this too, about bookending your day. And I still, you know, I use his methods. And I bookend my day every single day. And if I was 2 referrals short today, then I'm going to work my tushy off tomorrow to get 2 extra referrals. But if you don't measure that and you don't know that, then you're coming in and you're just waiting. You're going to pull all your laundry out of your dryer and you're going to start going through your email. And that's how your day is going to be. You're just going to be running back and forth from room to room, folding things, you know, and I know it's just the silliest thing, but it does make me laugh because it is how we operate sometimes, right? When we get trapped into those patterns. So it's about developing the habits to have that blueprint. So I hope that answers that question. I mean, there's lots of things I like about the book, but you know, I'm still really big on just self-control, you know, and really being a better you. That's my competition. Yesterday's Jennifer.
Can I just maybe ask or add one other thing too? Because we always get excited. Like right after I went to Insane Productivity, oh my goodness, I was so excited to implement, right? And I got back and I actually went with a good friend, Rhonda Johnson, who's a
I love Rhonda.
Oh, right. Yeah, my fishing friend. So I'm like, all right, what are we going to do to make sure we stay motivated? Well, what I did is I actually created a class for realtors to teach it.
Yeah.
And so I have realtors that will now come to me and say, all right, how are you doing? Or do you still do jam sessions? Or, you know, I taught it at a WCR event. And so all of this advice from your book or from these Friday phone calls, we get motivated right away. But going long term, look for someone to be an accountability partner, someone else in your office or a real estate agent or someone else, because you're right, tracking those numbers is absolutely critical. How many phone calls did you make today by noon, right? So who's gonna look over your shoulder? Because it's really easy to not do those things when our motivation dips down, and I guarantee your motivation is gonna dip down. And so there's tons of different ways you can do that, whether you find, you know, a coach or an accountability partner or a real estate agent that you want to help build their business and they help motivate you at the same time, or you teach classes, and just find a way that your motivation, hopefully when it dips, it's a small dip because you've got someone else looking out for you as well.
Yeah, and this is something, and I know we're getting to the top of the hour, but this is something that I say to everybody all the time. I teach a lot of classes to realtors and et cetera. And I tell them, you know, if you don't manage your time, someone else will. So who do you want managing your time? The people that are calling you left, right, and sideways and their chaos is being entered into our world? Or do you want to be managing your time and be in control? And so that's really key. Now, the other thing, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Bliss, because it reminds me of something. So with the book, one of the reasons why I wanted it to be the way it is, and by the way, it's pretty funny because at the end of the book, I have note-taking pages. I did it in a way that encourages people to get more than one and use this as a model to have your meetings with your realtors where you're all going through, you know, the same challenges. So if you're sitting with a realtor and their challenges, you know, that they're too ingrained in the body of the transaction and they need to hire somebody, then go through the minder sections with them and help them and use it as a tool for you guys to go back and forth. It would be a great book club item as well. But if you're meeting with a realtor and don't know what to talk about, this would be great for you both to be working on your skills as you go through each one of these sections, you know, to level up your practice along with them.
So here's an idea, Christmas gift, right? For your real estate agents. Hello.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So let's do this. We're in the last 5 minutes. I'm going to close with you, Jen. Bliss, thank you for collaborating, contributing on today's call. So a couple asks. So one, I put a post on my personal Facebook page around asking for feedback on the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. I have been getting a lot of great feedback from people that watch the video. I passionately believe that the Mortgage Coach Facebook channel is, I think it's the best free educational resource for a loan officer in the industry. And I would love to, we'd like to do a better job of organizing the content so that we know what you think is best. So two asks. One, if you could put in comments a bit of a testimonial, again, assuming that you think our YouTube channel is awesome, something authentic. And also let us know what you think is the 1, 2, or 3 all-time best videos. It'd be helpful for us as we organize it to make it more valuable for the mortgage industry. We want new loan officers coming into the industry to use that as a tool. We want loan officers that are looking to upgrade themselves to use that as a tool. So that's a Mortgage Coach homework assignment for everyone. You know, Jen is an amazing leader in our industry. She gives so much value through her podcast, now her book, and I really want to make sure this community serves Jen. So, you know, one, I highly recommend you buy her book. Jen, does it matter whether they buy it in pre-order mode, or is it better if they buy it on Tuesday or they buy it next week? What's just better for you?
Yeah, we already had our launch party last week, sometime or 2 weeks ago when I was in Las Vegas speaking. We already had our launch party, and so I was #1 in new releases. So I just say keep going. Yeah, thank you. I just say keep going. You know, with online. If you would like a signed copy, then order it directly through me and just reach out to me through Facebook. You know, on our page there, and I'll be happy to send you, you know, a signed copy.
So a couple of you asked for questions about it, like what's the name of it? I don't know, I got a bunch of questions. And so I did post on our Facebook page a link to buy it. So there is a link, I'm not seeing it at the moment, but it's there. On our Facebook page, there's a link, go buy it today, buy it by Tuesday. Let's really help support Jen. But don't do it for Jen, do it for you. You know, it really is.
That's what this is for.
Yeah, it's a great book. I mean, if I'm a loan officer, I mean, you crushed it. It's just a good playbook, whether you're learning something for the first time or you're being reminded. Also, Jen, you have a website. Anything else that the Mortgage Coach community should know about?
Yeah, in the membership tab. So I just also released a lifetime membership. So again, people have asked me year after year after year, you know, can I get a copy of this? Can you share with me that? And I just decided to take everything in my database and just kind of move it over into a lifetime membership. It's $997 for our team, you know, our team of mortgage coach people. So if you let me know that you heard it on here, you'll pay $997, but I'll give you a $200 rebate on it just because we're mortgage coach people. But it includes my perfect loan process, my you name it, it's in there. All my templates, all my signatures, 2 classes, continuing education classes that are already built and done for you. My event planning and marketing, my communication with my realtors. I have a couple of other little platforms that I talk about, and I still haven't released the other 6 classes that I put together, CE classes. So you get it for life. Whatever I put out for life. From this point forward, you'll get on and on and on and on and on and on. So you'll have access to all of that. And so if you have interest in that and you don't want to reinvent the wheel with everything, then it's there for you. So I appreciate you telling me or reminding me about that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So thanks for trusting us with an hour. Hopefully you got a lot of value. Reach out to Jen. Let us know which videos you like the best. We'd love a testimonial for our YouTube channel. If you have questions for next week, let us know what they are. But just a reminder, we are going to have a special guest next week. I talked to Josh, and I think the conversation he has is going to be about a half an hour with some conversation around it. So we will ask other questions, but check us out next Friday. And remember, we're trying to build up a big audience for this Friday call. So tell a mortgage friend, you know, pass this along Tell them to sign up for our group. We would love to have more people in it. And my last reminder for everybody is these calls are recorded. And by the end of the day, there will be, the Insane Productivity Mastermind video here. So check it out, rewatch it, share it with your friends, share it with your team. Take care, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. Or have a great holiday weekend. And take care.
Okay.